wanna sing, but I can't speak. I'm paralyzed when you're next to me, running on dreams, 'cause I can't see how this could be reality. You're holding me close, but I don't know. Do I let you in? Do I let it show? All of my fears and all of these ghosts are the only things I...
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week, another Monday, and another episode of Morning Coffee with your host, Rick Alexander. That intro music was provided by Brittany Taylor, and she is at Barbell Brittany on Instagram, and I am at Lionheart Radio and at Rick Alexander _. Before we get into today's show, what I wanted to do is take a minute for some housekeeping news and talk to you a little bit about what I have going on. So, people that have listened to Lionheart Radio for a while have, and I know we have quite a few new listeners now, but have figured out that I sort of made a little bit of a shift from more of the physiology into more of the psychology. And I did a whole episode on that. So if you're interested in why, you can go back and listen to that show. But in essence, I've just found that I can eke out a lot more performance when it comes to the psychology of an athlete and a human being than I can focusing on the physiology. I noticed it in my own life. And, you know, aside from that, there's the fact that no matter what you accomplish, if your head's a mess, your life is going to be a mess, and all the accomplishments will not be worth it. The reason I'm bringing all of this up is because for me to get to this conclusion was actually the result of lots and lots of deep work and personal transformation work, and a lot of thought, a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring. And what I've decided to do is I'm putting all of that into another book and a coaching program. And right now I am in Sydney, Australia as I'm writing that book and working on that coaching program. But I'm going to launch the beta program in January, and we're going to open up about 15 slots for people that are interested in doing some of this deep work. Now, this program is going to be for people who kind of want to figure out a little bit more about who they really are and what they really want out of their lives. And so I've taken lots of time to synthesize this personal transformation work that I've done and build it into a course. And I'm really, really committed to offering a world-class personal development program through this course. And so if you're interested in that, by all means, please hit me up. Again, I'm at Rick Alexander _ on Instagram or at Lionheart Radio. I'd love to have you in the beta program. Again, we're going to open it up to about 15 people, and I'll be releasing the details to people that are interested in the next couple weeks, and we're going to launch that in January. So if you want to kick off the new year with a whole lot of personal transformation, this will be a hell of a program for you. So today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about drive and alignment. So I've started a lot of businesses over the course of my life, and I've taken on a lot of projects and taken on a lot of endeavors. And every single one sort of got me a little bit closer to the person that I am, but it wasn't always really easy. See, we have to be careful that we don't allow our drive to sit in the driver's seat. And I've talked about this before. I've talked about the kind of proper role of ambition in your life. But sometimes what we believe is, especially today in today's world of social media influencers and Instagrammers, and we're sort of always being told that the answer is hustle and that we just have to kind of push and push and push and, you know, work while others sleep. And all that is well and good. And whatever it is that you want to do, if it's actually great, it's going to take a decent amount of work. There's no doubt about that. But you cannot survive on work alone, we'll say. So when it comes to figuring out what you want to do in the world, and it comes to starting businesses and taking on big projects, what you want to do is you want your drive to meet alignment. See, there's a person that you really are supposed to be in the world, and that person is supposed to be doing certain things. And so the problem is that sometimes we take on things that we feel like we should take on and that we don't actually want to take on. And because of that, once we get into the grind, it actually feels like a grind. And we are left a little bit less happy because it always feels like we're punishing ourselves as we work. And we think, what's wrong with me? I just need to outwork this problem. And the reality is that sometimes there are problems that just can't be outworked. And even if you can, you're going to just make yourself miserable in the process of just trying to compensate for alignment with hard work. So when you take on a project that feels like it's in alignment with who you are and what you really want for your life, you know it, because that's when the vision will pull you toward it and you don't feel like you are driving toward it as much. You don't feel like you are having to force it. What you want to be careful of is there's a tipping point. Anything that's great is going to require a certain level of hard work. But there is a point when it comes to that hard work where it's going to feel like what you're doing is failing. And what you have to do is discern if that thing's in alignment with you, whether it's worth pushing through that point where it feels like it's going to fail or not. And sometimes I think because of Western culture, because of our society today, we think that if you quit something that you're weak or you're stupid or you're whatever, fill in the blank. But the reality is if something's not in alignment with who you are and what you really want for your life, you should quit it because you're going to make yourself miserable if you continue to drive on. And so sometimes that's the problem with worshiping hard work. It's like sometimes we get in this mindset where we think that we just have to outwork all of our problems. And so, we start businesses and we take on big projects and we just work and we work but the reality is you have to step back and you have to look at this thing and you have to figure out, one, is this in alignment with what I really want for my life? And then two, do I see the way out of this thing? I started an apparel company it was the first company I ever started because I think that's what people do when they don't know what kind of business to start. They just start a t-shirt company. And it became really clear that I was in the textile industry and not the athletic industry as soon as I started. And after pushing and pushing and pushing for a little over a year, I realized that I didn't see a way out. Like I didn't see any way that I was going to become the best in the world at what I was doing. I didn't see any way to notably set myself apart. Like I don't personally have good style. Looking back, it's like, I don't even know why I would have started this. But sometimes we end up in these situations where a lot of the advice that you're going to get is going to tell you, got to push, got to push, got to push. But the fact is, if that thing that is not in alignment with what you really want for your life, then you are going to end up miserable and there's no end game. There's nothing besides the only thing that's going to lie on more at the end of more punishment is more punishment. And you're just going to keep pushing and pushing and banging your head against the wall when the reality is, if you are doing something that's in alignment with who you are and what you really want, it's going to take a lot of work, of course, but it's also going to feel right. It's going to feel like the vision is pulling you toward it and you're not sort of wading through all this garbage to get to it. And I honestly believe that you can apply this to your athletic endeavors, your hobbies, your projects, your businesses, your work life, your family life, your relationships. Like if you are doing things that are not in alignment with you and it always feels like work, then you might be in a rough position. It might be time to quote last week, it might be time to jump. But it also just might be time to figure something else out, to figure out a pivot, to see if you can even pivot within the thing that you're doing. Like sometimes, with businesses, we started this supplement company, and as I got into it, I realized how much I loved the content side of it, and I've slowly pivoted, and now content is essentially what I do 24/7. And so sometimes you just have to figure out what is in alignment with who you are and what you want. It might be that your original idea was really, really good. And sometimes because we have a good idea, we want to hold on to it. But the reality is you don't always have to make money back the way you lost it, right? You don't have to make a relationship work because there's another relationship out there that's for you. And I'm not telling you to or not to do anything. I'm just telling you there are always other options. And what you're doing with your life, it's going to require hard work, but it's also going to require alignment. And I think deep down we always know if we're in alignment or not. But you have to be careful not to get sucked into this culture of hustle and holding up hustle as the gold standard for everything that happens in your life. Because the reality is that some things should be easy, right? And it's going to require work, but you don't want to use all of your emotional bandwidth up on your day-to-day tasks. And actually, that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit tomorrow. So I'm going to end it there. But definitely think about the things that you're doing. Think about whether they're in alignment with who you are and what you really want for your life. And if they're not, there's no way you're going to be able to hustle your way through it. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow on Morning Coffee.